Alrighty, we are live. Hello, hello. Let me just check some settings really quick. All right. Audio looks good. And if for any reason people are not seeing me or hearing me, let me know. But on my end, everything looks good. So with that said, welcome you guys. Happy Saturday, happy weekend. I know we usually do these lives on Sunday, but tomorrow I'm actually going to be out of town for the day. So I wanted to make sure to get it in this week. So today it is. Awesome. Hey, Frank. Audio good? Awesome, awesome. Mina, hi. Hi. Hello, Tyson. Hello, Northwest Wind. Hey, guys. I hope everybody's having an awesome weekend so far. We'll go ahead and get started here in a moment. I just like to give it a second to allow people to get the notification and come on in. Hello, Lizard. Hello, April. Hello, Tracy. Hello. Hello, John. Hello from Israel. Welcome. Hello. Hello, Jonathan. Good to have you here. I think one of my most favorite things about doing this is the global community. Getting the chance to talk to people from all over the world, that is so cool. That is just so freaking cool. So pleasant to see you today. I was just thinking about, oh, thank you. Thank you. It's good to have you here. And I'm excited to dive in. These are always a good time. My hair's not cooperating today. I need to get a haircut. Hello, Amy. Hello, Kat. Hello, Rock AKM. Welcome, you guys. Welcome. Like I said, we'll get started here in just a moment. Yeah, my apologies for throwing the schedule a bit off. I know everybody's kind of gotten into the rhythm of this being on Sundays, but next week we will go back to the regular routine schedule. I'm going to Nevada tomorrow, and I want to make sure I get the chance to get this in. Hello, Juan. Hi. Hi, good to have you here. Yay. Hello. So currently at the moment, Laura, I am not doing discovery calls because there is a wait list currently for one-on-one coaching, unfortunately. I know, and I'm so sorry, but I will bring them back eventually. Just right now, there is quite a wait list for one-on-one coaching, and there's only so many hours in a day. I can only take so many people on, but yeah, there was also some syncing issues going on with the calendar. It was a whole thing. I do apologize, but I do have the links below to the wait list if you are interested in working together. Hello, Manny. Hi. Looking amazing. Oh, thank you. You are so sweet. Thank you. And thank you for being here. All right. With that, I think we can go ahead and get started. Yeah. Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump on in, as I am I want to get to answering some questions. So again, welcome you guys. Thank you so much for being here to another live Q&A session. I love doing these. I aim to always make them weekly, and I usually have them Sundays. Tomorrow I will be out of town, so I wanted to make sure to try to get it in this week. So figured today was going to be better than not doing it at all. Well, I don't know how many people are going to be able to join, but regardless, Thank you. I hope your weekend is awesome so far. And before we jump in, just a couple quick announcements, as I usually do. Yes, there is still the waitlist for one-on-one coaching, but I do have some other programs and things to come out because of that. I know for those who may want to get started sooner, who those might want to jump in on your journey and work together sooner, I do have my Manifest a Specific Person Masterclass. It is a 5-week course. It is drip content, so it is 5 weeks, and it's going to walk you through everything that you need to know and understand and put into practice to not only change your state of consciousness, but maintain it. It's everything that I did to manifest my person back. And 5.5 years later, we're doing pretty awesome. So there's no complaints there. I've got that information below. And I've also, as of today, just opened registration for the next round of the Mindset Mastery Program. That is my 12-week program that I do, the group coaching program. All the information is down below. The next one's going to be starting in June. So that's coming up here rather quickly. So again, if you want to work together, if you want more information on what that's about, check out this description box. And with that said, let's go ahead and jump on in. I'm gonna get some caffeine real quick first. Hey, Missy Renee, what advice would you give someone who is manifesting being better at socializing? Good question. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to manifest being better at socializing, or being in larger groups in that setting? The first thing that I would do is, I mean, if your aim is to feel more confident, which in this case it sounds like that would be, being more confident, less anxious around people, more outgoing, more of an extrovert, I would, once you've defined that aim and what that looks like, what traits or aspects of your personality that you want to see change, I would construct a scene. I would construct something that implies that you are now better at socializing, that you now have more confidence, you are more outgoing, more of an extrovert. And that could be a couple different things. When I say a scene, it doesn't just mean visualizing, although that is one way to do it. So you could always visualize that you are in a group setting, in a large group, and see yourself, just laughing with others, seeing yourself engaging with others and feeling good doing so. It could be an inner conversation that you're having with somebody and hearing them tell you that you are so much more engaging, you are so much more outgoing, like hear the confirmation of that and then confirm that yourself. So really it's just a matter of what is being implied, right? When we're imagining that wish fulfilled, it's really just, what do we want to see that implies that this is now the person that that I am now the person that I want to be, that I'm now living in the state where I am different in these ways, right? So imagining, visualizing a scene that you're the life of the party. It could be inner conversation with somebody, hearing them confirm that you are now charismatic, outgoing, and confident. Things like that is what I would suggest. But really, it's just getting yourself used to and familiar with what that would be like and some of the things that you would experience as that person and in that state of consciousness. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. When others encounter chaos, did I accidentally create it? I'm wanting to use the law to cushion others. I notice a lot of temporary improvement in manifesting for others. I'm wanting it to stick. So when we encounter other people experiencing chaos, for lack of better words, did we accidentally create it? Short answer is yes. Everything that we see, everything that is reflected in the 3D, was all first an impression subconsciously. Like whatever's existing and going on out here was once impressed in here, right? So, but a lot of time, I mean, we're not doing this consciously. And in fact, most of the time, we're not doing this consciously until we learn about the law and start becoming more observant and aware. Um, so, yeah, we did accidentally create it. And that goes for circumstances with us and other people. But I mean, the good news is, even if we accidentally created something that was not ideal, we can always change that, right? Like we can always instead move ourselves into a state where there's resolution. And honestly, that is the power of revision, first and foremost. If we hear bad news or see somebody go through something that is not good, not wanted, we can always revise that. We can change that. And I do love that you are using the law to help others. And that's something that, I mean, we should be doing. We want to be doing, right? This isn't all just about creating things for us. This is also about, helping other people and seeing others in our mind's eye as we would, like to see it work out for them and as they would want it to work out as well. This is a nice surprise to get a notification. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Colonel Moonlight. It's good to have you here. Hello, Chi-chan. Hey, Missy, any tips on how to stop the feeling of anxiousness every time SP comes in? I feel like it halts my progress. Thank you. Absolutely, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Um, the feeling of anxiousness every time SP comes up for us, every time we think about SP. And really, that's the reason that's even coming up is because we're still identifying with an old state of consciousness. So perhaps there's still attachment to that old story, right? And the first thing that we would want to do anytime we're feeling anxious is first and foremost try to alleviate that anxiousness, because it may be for some people that if you're feeling anxious and you try to jump into the state of the wish fulfilled, it might make the anxiety feel worse. It may not, it may feel challenging to live in the end while you're feeling very anxious. So, I mean, the first thing that we would want to do in that case is help to alleviate that anxiousness. And there's a few different ways that you can go about doing that. My favorite is breathing and breath work, right? Taking long, deep breaths, long, slow, deep breaths, holding it for a count, letting it out. Because what this is doing is it's sending message to your brain that you're safe, right? It's sending a signal to our mind that we're not in danger. And that's going to shut off the fight or flight response, which is what is creating that anxiety, in our physiology. Like that's going to shut off that switch. And you're going to notice yourself beginning to relax, right? And once you do that and you start to feel more relaxed, you start to feel a bit more grounded, from there it's going to be easier to start to move more into that state of the wish fulfilled. Start instead imagining that new story, right? Another good way to help alleviate anxiety, a lot of people have said that EFT tapping has really helped for feelings of anxiety. Um, and I remember that having a good effect on me in the past. But yeah, we want to just use techniques to help alleviate the anxiety first. So methods or techniques. It could also be getting outside and going for a walk. Anything that is just going to help to shut down and start to bring you down from that fight or flight response. And once you're more grounded, then you can better live in the end. I hope that makes sense. Oh, Let me see. Sorry, I lost my spot. One sec. How do you approach manifesting a loved one recovering and being released from the hospital and returning home back to their original functioning? I find it tough when I visit daily. Yeah, I mean, I can only. It is tough when we see something in the 3D that appears very real to us, right? If we visit somebody in the hospital and we see them hooked up to all the machines and tubes, like it's going to feel very real to us. But one thing that I'd recommend, manifesting their release and seeing that, discharged is I would just imagine that, you know, I would imagine seeing them at home, right? I would construct a scene that implies that they're now home. Perhaps they're still wearing their hospital bracelet, but they're at home now, like you're visiting them at their house. They seem to be doing much better. Perhaps they're looking better. They're looking more lively. Something along those lines is what I personally would do. Or even in inner conversation, perhaps talking to another family member, hearing confirmation that, they're home now and they're doing good. They're feeling better, and all of that is how I personally would go about doing that. And again, I know it may not always feel easy, especially if we go and visit them in the 3D. But yeah, perhaps like after you get home from visiting them, taking a moment to let yourself settle in, you know, alleviate some anxiety that may be there, and then launching into seeing them or hearing that they are back at home. Well, thank you, Chi-chan. Thank you. Let me find my spot. Sorry. My brother is poor. I tried helping him and told him about manifestation. Instead of being thankful, he started demeaning me that I live in La La Land. I feel so hurt. Oh, I'm sorry, Shayna. I'm so sorry. Yeah, other people's words can be incredibly hurtful. And not everybody is going to be in a place where they are receptive to this, receptive to these teachings. And I know it can feel um, especially hurtful if they start demeaning you over it. And I'm so sorry about that. The first thing that I would do is revise that encounter. I would absolutely revise that. That he said all those things to you, and what we can do if we want to help other people, if we're feeling like we have the desire to help others that we care about, is just imagine and see them in our mind's eye, see them at the place that they want to go. So in this case, seeing your brother as somebody who has, moved himself out of the state of poverty. Perhaps he is gainfully employed now. Perhaps he's doing very well. He's got his own place and he's thriving. And see him that way in your mind's eye, right? Or imagine a conversation, anything that's going to help you tap into that reality and start feeling into that reality where he is now doing much better. He has, overcome this this state of poverty, right? We're moving others out of the state that we see them in initially, so in this case poverty, and moving them into the state of abundance or comfort, right? um because yeah, there's no, especially if we have doubts in what other people think about the law, like if we fully if we're not sure how other people are going to take these things, we may see those kinds of reactions by talking to them in the 3D. So I would revise it. I would wipe that encounter. I would wipe that interaction, and I would, instead see him in your mind as being at the place where he's now comfortable, he's doing well, and he's thriving. Yeah. Question: I had a rough childhood because of an angry parent. Did I manifest this? I'm looking for your actual metaphysical opinion, not necessarily something that will make me feel better. Good question, Tyson. And I know this one is obviously, this one is a common question because, yeah, if we suffered a lot of things in childhood, if we dealt with things that were not great, how did that happen, right? I think this is something that naturally everybody comes across on this journey, and everybody inquires about, well, terrible things that happen to people, especially children, like, did they manifest that? And the short answer is no, not in the sense of they consciously and deliberately did that, right? Like, for example, Tyson, that is your self-concept, the idea of you and who you believe yourself to be did not manifest that circumstance, right? I mean, you were a child. You didn't have any conception of that, um, or any solid foundation of that. And this kind of goes back to the teaching. In the book of John, Jesus says, I and my Father are one. And then Jesus says, but my Father is greater than I. So there is the us or the I that is our self-concept, Missy Renee or Tyson. And then there is the I that is awareness, that is God. That is the awareness of being Missy Renee or being Tyson, right? And awareness or God, that is ultimately what is always manifesting. It's not that, from a young age we're consciously and deliberately doing any of that. No, not in the sense of what you might think, that like we brought it on ourselves and it's all our fault or any of that stuff. I mean, until we found out about this, none of us were conscious of what was happening here. None of us were conscious that it was us that were creating the circumstances or selecting these states of consciousness as an experience. We didn't know, right? We were fast asleep. So I say this to say that this is not about victim blaming. This is not about saying, oh, well, it's all your fault, all the terrible things happen to you, because that's just shitty. It's super shitty. So I am actually drawing out a script. It's probably going to wind up being a series about the more advanced manifestation, going more into the topic of awareness, more into the topic of deeper metaphysical philosophy, and breaking down some of the things like that, like why do terrible things happen, and did we all create it? Is it our fault that an earthquake happened 5,000 miles away that killed all these people? Like, all of that will be covered, and I know it's a lot, but rest assured that that was not you, Tyson, doing that. I hope that makes sense. It may not make a whole lot of sense right now. I absolutely am planning on covering more of that, more into those topics and more into the, for lack of better words, advanced metaphysics. When having tons of doubts, it is preferred to tell myself this is possible. I've revised a lot, although evidence to the contrary keeps slapping me in the face. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amy. Yeah, we may need, depending on what we're revising, depending on if it's something that perhaps goes a bit deeper, so to speak, it may take us revising a few times to completely erase that old conception. But going back to the first part, when having a lot of doubts, Is it preferred to tell yourself that this is possible? Yes, absolutely. Um, if it feels very challenging to believe or if feels difficult to have conviction that this specific thing is gonna happen, we instead can fall back onto, "This is possible," right? Just a way of keeping the faith, a way of relieving some of that resistance and some of that doubt, and that is just telling us that this is possible. I actually made a video a few months back talking about how if we're able to construct and really maintain that mindset, like this mindset of, "This is possible for me," that alone is going to help you tremendously on this journey. Like, if we can really cultivate that state and that belief that anything is possible for us, it is going to be so helpful. It is going to be so incredibly helpful, because we may not have conviction that our specific thing is possible or going to happen, and that's okay. That is fine. It is going to feel less resistance to the idea that this thing is possible. It is possible that our person's gonna come back to us. It may not feel like this is going to happen, but we can probably subscribe to that it's a possibility, right? It could happen. One's gonna feel much less, there's gonna be much less resistance to one than the other. So yeah, that's totally fine. And if nothing else, we can fall back on the law itself, right? Having faith in the law itself versus conviction that this thing that we're trying to do is going to happen, yeah, that's gonna alleviate some of that feeling of resistance or that this can't happen or this is not gonna happen. Missy, I'd like to hear your opinions on birds before land. Absolutely. So, birds before land, I know many of you here probably know what that is, but for those who might not, birds before land is basically a circumstance or scenario that happens where you are trying to manifest something specific and you're seeing instead a more general outcome instead, right? Like, for example, and the most common example of birds before land is we're trying to manifest an SP, a specific person, but perhaps somebody else reaches out to us and says all the things and does all the things that we would want to hear from our SP. So we're hearing and experiencing the things that we had imagined. It's just coming from a different person, typically an ex or somebody else. Um, and basically that happens because, well, first, what you're doing is you're moving into a more general state of consciousness. So, what we do on this journey, the first things that we do is focus on changing the conception of self. So, a lot of times there may be beliefs such as, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough or smart enough, I'm just not, I'm not good enough to have this thing. Things never work out for me, relationships never work out for me. I'm gonna wind up being alone. All those types of things are a lot of the very common beliefs, and assumptions that we have when it comes to relationships. Well, the first thing that we do is start changing that. So instead of those beliefs, we want to start subscribing to the conceptions like, I am loved, I am chosen, I am worthy, I am beautiful, I am, you know, this state of consciousness, right? And as you do that, you're going to start to believe it. You're going to start to feel it. And with that, you're going to start seeing the corresponding changes in the 3D, right? So it may be that somebody reaches out to you and confirms that, but it may not be specifically who you want to hear it from. So it's basically that you're getting more familiar and settled into a new state of consciousness, but perhaps it's more general, right? So you hear confirmation of it, but perhaps not yet from your specific person. Now, I hope that makes sense. And that's incredibly common. It's an incredibly common phenomenon. It happens to many, many people. It happened to me. It happens a lot. And it's not a bad thing. If anything, it's giving confirmation that you are moving, right? You are changing internally because everything on the outside is just an expression of what's inside. So, yeah, it's sort of indication that, a change is taking place and to keep going. I have put the telephone technique into practice and I've had many dreams that relate to my manifestation. I am happy. Yay! That's so awesome, Chi-Chen. Good. Good. Yes. That is awesome. Keep going. Keep going. Hello, Jackie. In writing my daily lists, I'm running out of things to manifest. Whoa. Any tips so I don't keep writing the same stuff? It's getting so boring. Uh, you're running out of stuff to manifest. Dang. Dang, really? Because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that exists in consciousness. Um, any tips to keep it fresh? I mean, yeah. Yeah. I guess, maybe start adding different what's the word I'm looking for? Make different categories, right? So it could be like locations, one can be interactions with people, one can be objects, right? Just different categories, and in each category you can come up with different scenarios that fall into that category, right? Like manifesting that you're going to wind up going somewhere, manifesting that you're going to have this type of encounter with somebody, manifesting that you're going to run into this object or this thing, and to start stretching it out a little bit. Just I don't know, like we compartmentalize a lot just as humans, and it can be easy to get stuck in what we know and what is super familiar. But if you start to take everything into categories, like broader categories, you might be able to start getting more creative with things from that, right? I'm not sure what you usually are used to writing, um, but yeah, I mean, there's so many things. There's you know encounters, circumstances. There's so many things. There's so many things. I mean, think of everything that exists within consciousness. That's like you take you so long to run through it all. Like that's yeah. Yeah. Do you only use your hearing sense while doing that technique, or are you also seeing your desire? Oh, that was for Chi-Chan. Yeah, for the telephone technique, yeah, I'm not sure, Chi-Chan, how you do it, but, it is supposed to be the hearing aspect of it, right? You're hearing the dialogue, you're hearing the conversation. You can make it a visual scene. It doesn't have to just be audio, but it's mainly hearing. Hey, Missy, what is your thoughts on co-creating? What are my thoughts on co-creation? Um, I don't subscribe to it. I don't subscribe to it. Co-creation is an idea. It very much stems from the law of attraction and basically says that you and the universe are co-creators, right? Like you are creating in tandem with the universe. But I don't I fully do not subscribe to that, because you are the universe. In your reality, it is from your point of view, it is your awareness, right? It is all what you are aware of, And ergo, nobody outside of that has any control over that because you're always in control over what comes in and out of your awareness, right? So no, I don't subscribe to the idea, and it's easier to subscribe to that idea naturally because then if something doesn't go our way, we have the scapegoat, right? Like it wasn't meant to be because the universe knows best, and I didn't, it's not time yet. It wasn't divine timing or whatever. It's certainly easier for us to have the idea of something else to scapegoat to, but no, no, I don't buy it. Um, oh my goodness, Kat. I visualized visiting SP's father with my SP. A few weeks ago, my SP texted me saying that his dad passed away and asked me to pray for him. I'm struggling to get over this. I feel I've failed. His father and I were close, and I often feel I should have done this quicker, better, because now I cannot change these circumstances. What is your advice on this? Oh, Kat, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. I know death is a topic that obviously is a very it's a touchy one. There's a lot of feeling, emotion, grieving around it. I mean, the first thing that I would say is that his father isn't dead in the sense of what we think of it as. Death is not the way that we have perceived it or known it to be. It's not that they're gone, they don't exist anymore, and that's it. Not at all. Death doesn't really exist in that sense because it's impossible to no longer exist. It's impossible to just cease to exist. So that's not a real thing. And in fact, your SP's father is still very much alive in another state of consciousness, in another reality. Period. Um, so I hope that brings you a sense of comfort, and that goes for anyone who's lost a loved one, somebody that they care about. They're still very much alive in another state of consciousness that look almost identical to this one. So rest assured, it's not that they just cease to be. That's not real. Um, and no, you did not manifest that. Like the you that is Cat did not manifest that. No. I know it's easy for us to harbor that guilt and that resentment, but that wasn't you. That was not you. I've reacted badly today from my ex SP over email. He will not budge from the old story. He was so in love with me and now he's not, and I'm struggling with how. I revise, I script, and do inner conversations. So, this is an incredibly common thing that we deal with when it comes to manifesting a person. What are we conscious of being in the moment? We need to stop and ask ourselves, like, what is the story that I am subscribed to when it comes to my specific person? Like, what am I giving meaning and definition to when it comes to my person? That is what is going to manifest. The techniques are just tools to help us bridge the gap from where we are to where we want to be. It's to help us flesh out and live in a new state of consciousness internally, right? Just because we do techniques in and of itself does not mean that it's going to happen if we continue to revert back to that old story. So if we continue to be aware of the 3D and acknowledge the 3D and accept this story of the 3D, we're going to be going around in circles. So the first thing I recommend is revision. revising this whole encounter. It's okay if we react. It's okay if, things happen. We're not always going to be perfect. And it's totally fine because that's what revision's for. But I would revise this encounter. I would revise the reaction and all of that. We do not want to continue to accept and acknowledge the 3D story, which I know, again, easier said than done. But whatever we are aware of is what will continue to manifest. So when we say living in the end, that means living in imagination and continuing to go to the place in your imagination that is where you want to be, and that what is ideal and that what is desirable instead, right? We cannot continue to keep accepting and keep confirming this old story and expect to see change. It can't be both. It can't be both. So revise it. And remember that during our day, through our day to day, like, where are we dwelling in consciousness? And I'm actually just about to release a video talking about this, because the biggest thing that I'm seeing where people are struggling to manifest an SP is they're failing to understand that this is not about trying to change the 3D. This is about changing us. Like, we are only focused on changing how we feel and what we are assuming and what we are aware of in consciousness, right? This isn't about the 3D change. That will happen on its own automatically. So revise it, do not accept it, and remember to continue to go back to that place in imagination that is desirable and that is what you choose to experience instead. And I'm sorry, I know it's hard. Thank you for the super chat, Yes to Life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you kind of answered with co-creation. And my friend asked me about a couple that never wanted kids and accidentally got pregnant and are now happy to be parents. Is that a higher power knowing better? So the idea, and okay, the idea of the higher power, I mean, obviously, yes, there is awareness, there is God, which is much more powerful than our ego, the self-concept. The Father is greater than I, but the Father is not going to impose his will on me. Like, we have in our reality free will, always. It's never going to be that that God is going to step in and say, nope, you have to do this thing instead. God the Father is going to accept whatever we assume and say, okay, that's what we're going to experience then. So in this case, with your friends, and I mean that happens. That happens. Somebody may, at one point not want kids and then change their mind. That's allowed to happen. But no, it's not the divine power coming in and saying, no, you have to do this instead, right? It could be, any multitude of reasons. I hope that makes sense. But no, there is no higher authority outside of us that is dictating what we need to do or saying, yes, you can only do this. No, you can't do that. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. All right, going back to my questions. Sometimes I doubt my SP is right for me, but I think this is because of my inner fears and assumptions. I definitely desire him and have zero interest in others, but this uncertainty holds me back. Yeah, this is a fairly common scenario, Rodkey. See, the thing that we got to remember about our person, and this sometimes we doubt if they're the right person for us, and it may be that version that is in your 3D right now that you are aware of right now. Maybe not. Maybe not. But this is kind of where we need to think quantum, right? We need to think in quantum levels, not just linear time levels or just separation level, right? We need to think that there are infinite versions of our person. And although what we are seeing in some aspects is not ideal, we do not have to bring those traits into the equation, right? We do not have to imagine that we are embodying a state where they are showing up that is not ideal, right? You can imagine a state where SP is showing up differently, where they are coming in to awareness without all of these non-ideal aspects, characteristics, and things of that sort. Um, but yeah, it stems from our inner fears and assumptions. Like that's double-mindedness always stems from fear. Every time. The root of it all is fear. That part is true. So I would instead of seeing him as the version that may be appearing in front of you now, see him see the version of him that is showing up with respect, kindness, appreciation, love, gratitude. See him as you would want him to be in imagination and go there. Hi, Missy. Do you believe in divine timing? I've been manifesting an SP since March, but some people say that it shouldn't take that long. I'm not scared that it doesn't happen. Do you think it's resistance? Um, so divine timing, that's saying that something can only happen it's only possible for something to happen. Like, are we destined to experience something at some point? I don't believe in like fate or destiny because again, that implies that we don't have free will. Um, does every seed have its appointed hour? Yeah, yeah. Every desire that we have, every time we have a desire, that desire also comes with the means and ways of perfect expression, right? So it already comes with the GPS punched in on how to get you from where you are to where you want to be. If we are able to embody that state, if we're able to live in imagination, live in the end in imagination, we'll be moved there, and in the most natural way possible. Um, I wouldn't so much take from other people that it shouldn't take that long. Everybody's journey is going to be different. Everybody's journey is going to, be very much unique to where they are, their own beliefs and assumptions. And so I know we want to compare ourselves to other people, but we really need to be careful of doing that because everyone's journey is going to be different, period. Um, I think the best gauge to see where you're at is always going to be internal. It's always going to be, as far as timing goes, it's whatever feels most natural to you. Like, the time that it takes to manifest is proportionate to how natural the end state feels for you. So it's continuing to go back to that end state in imagination, get familiar with it, get more comfortable with it, and make it feel more natural and normal to you. That's that's what's gonna be the fastest. So, yeah. "Hey, currently doing your SP course and I love it." "Oh, thank you, but I feel I need some coaching. Will it open soon?" Yes. Well, so the one-on-one coaching will be, opening periodically as their spots become available. So yeah, w as far as opening soon, yes, and depending on where you are on the waiting list, um, that I could not tell you. But yeah. If you reach out and send me an email, I could probably find out where you are on the list and give you a better gauge that way. But I am glad that you're enjoying the course. That makes me happy. Hi, Missy. When you have aspects of self, like confidence or self doubt that you want to work on revising, what's the best way to imagine this? Good question. So, when you have aspects of yourself that you want to work on or revise, what's the best way to imagine this? My absolute favorite way to imagine when it comes to aspects of ourself, like characteristics, how we're showing up, things like that, is inner conversations, right? Like imagining that you're having a conversation with a friend or a loved one and hear them confirm that you are now showing up more as the person that you want to be. So imagining somebody tell you, Mimi, you are so much more confident these days. You are so much more like assertive. You are bold. I love seeing it. Things like that. It's all about what's being implied. And for me, I've found that that's been the easiest way to imply that I'm now imagining and therefore living in this state where I'm showing up in this way. I hope that makes sense. I just use the sense of hearing. I've noticed that bringing in the sense of hearing works better for me than bringing in the sense of sight. Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's going to have, strengths and weaknesses when it comes to the imaginal senses, right? So, imaginal sense of hearing, sight, touch, taste, smell. Everybody's going to have uh, differences there, right? Everybody's going to have strengths and weaknesses. It doesn't have to be that we have to visualize. It's never the case that we have to visually see it in our mind's eye. We can hear it, we can get the sense of touching it, like whatever that might be, and that will work just fine. Yeah. I manifested my SP back in contact again, but he still says he cannot reciprocate feelings. I'm trying to persist, but am I delusional? It no longer brings me joy. Do I let go? What happens next? Olivia, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, so when we're seeing I guess the old story coming into awareness again, that points to there's still something attached to that old story. Like we're still resonating with that old story in some aspect if it's showing up like that. Um, that said, if imagining the end, imagining the wish fulfilled is no longer bringing you a sense of joy, I absolutely would start to I would maybe sit down and really do some inner exploration. Do some inner exploration as to the things that do give you joy. Like what what fills me with satisfaction? Like in this moment, what can I conceive of that feels satisfying? Like what would be a state that I could occupy that does feel good and that does bring me joy? And start to get familiar with that. Start to paint a picture of maybe what that looks like. I would not continue to push yourself to do something that is not fulfilling and not bringing you joy. I personally wouldn't. Um, I would still revise that encounter. I would absolutely revise what was said because we do want to detach from that old story and whatever may still be there as far as resonating with that old story. I would do that. And then I would do some just internal observation, internal exploration, and see what may be something that does bring me joy, something that does feel moving and good to imagine, whatever that looks like, and continue to go from there. Thank you for the other super chat. Yes to life. So sorry, I just now saw that. Thank you, Missy, for all your content. You are so welcome. Final question. People often are against manifesting an SP as evil, selfish, and point to Neville saying, we don't want an SP, we want to be married. Can you make a video about this? Yeah, I should. Yeah, I should. And yes, there are going to be a lot of conflicting opinions about manifesting a specific person. Yeah, because for the most part, in the law of attraction community, it is frowned upon to manifest a specific person because that is impeding on their free will and all of that. Um, but that would be true if what we were doing is trying to manipulate them, but that's not what we're doing. Not at all what we're doing. We're not even trying to get them to change. All we're doing is imagining a version of us that is happily and lovingly in a relationship with a version of them that it's reciprocated, right? Because there is a state of consciousness, there is a reality where that is a very real outcome. That is a very real experience to have. It already exists. So we're just directing ourselves to go there, right? We're not trying to manipulate somebody or take their free will. That's not what this is about. So that's what a lot of the people who think it's evil, they fail to understand that this is not manipulation, it's not coercion, it's not anything like that. You're not trying to change anybody on the outside there at all. And as far as what Neville said about, we don't want a specific person, we want to be married, that whole point in that whole blurb, and I know what you're talking about, the lecture that he spoke about that, he's more pointing to the idea that we need to stop trying so damn hard to get an SP. Like, we need to stop fixating so much on the other person and instead fixate on us and how we feel and feel into, like, embody that feeling of what it would be like. Because most times when we come into the law of assumption and we're trying to manifest a person, our attention is completely on that person, and we're fixated and we've got him on the pedestal, we've got him way up here, and that's what he was saying, like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Neville was not against manifesting a specific person. He manifested his second wife. Like, he deliberately did that. So it's not that he was against manifesting a specific person. He was against trying to, like, obsess and spiral into making it all about them, right? Having them up on the pedestal. But yeah, I should make a video about that. I know that that's a common belief a lot of people have. No. Nah. Hi, Missy. I want to ask if the sudden desire to confess to SP is a form of manipulation of the 3D. Is me being nervous about it means it's not inspired action? Yes. Yeah. So, the sudden desire to confess to SP is a form of manipulation. Yeah. So for inspired action is unconscious. Inspired action is you're not going to be conscious in that moment of what you're doing and how it's contributing to the bridge of events, right? Um, if you're feeling hesitant about it, if you're feeling a sense of doubt or pause about it, that would not make it inspired action. No. Um, and if there is the sudden desire there to confess, I mean, I would sort of do some internal digging and see, like, okay, where is that stemming from? Is it genuinely stemming from a place of, I desire to say these things to him because I feel good about doing so, and in turn, he's going to reciprocate? Or is it stemming from a place of fear? Is it stemming from a place of, I need the 3D to move? I need confirmation in the 3D, right? There's a difference there. But yeah, generally speaking, inspired action is unconscious. Like, we're not conscious of what we're doing when we're doing it, right? So yeah. Hi, Missy. My question is, what do you think about reincarnation? Do you think we carry trauma from past lives into new lives, and that's why we're born into all different kinds of circumstances? Good question. So yes and no. I do subscribe to when we die, we absolutely come back as, basically a younger version of ourself. When we die in one state, we awaken in another state, similar to what's going on here, with the same beliefs and assumptions that we may have had from that life. So in that sense, yes, some things do carry over. Um, but I don't believe that we reincarnate as like another, like a bug or animal of some kind, and all of that. Like our the whole reason that we're here as humans, as man, why God became man, was to experience greater and grander things, right? Like God became man so that man could become God. And this is all a journey of, you know, learning and evolving and growing, until inevitably someday we reach the promise, and that is, God's promise that we will awaken to who we really are. We will remember who we really are. That will happen to everyone. We don't know when, but it will happen for everyone. Um, so in that sense, like the physical death is no, it's not the end. So in that sense, yeah, you sort of you continue the journey in another state, and you continue your, you know evolving and evolution along the way. I hope that makes sense. Hello, hello. I'm sorry, finding my spot. I'm confident with the inner work, but when it comes to 3D, how do I respond or communicate when we're just friends in the 3D, but I know we're married in imagination? The bridge is moving. Yeah. And I know it does get some taking used to. It takes some acclimating to, getting used to, dealing with the 3D when in imagination it's something else entirely. That is something that you will become more and more familiar with, and you'll know more and more of how to respond to it as you continue to do it. Basically, it's knowing and understanding that whatever's happening in the 3D, we can acknowledge it. We don't have to, try to lie to ourselves and say, this isn't, try to lie to ourselves and say that, oh, this is what's not actually going on, or basically try to make ourselves delusional. You can acknowledge that the 3D is the way that it is, but it's understanding that what you are imagining, what you are seeing yourself in imagination, that is what ultimately becomes your experience. Like it must be out pictured. We don't always know when, but it must, right? So even if the 3D is not showing up in the most ideal way right now, ultimately doesn't matter, because to you and what you are imagining and what you are feeling into is what has to be expressed, right? And that's one of the most important things that we need to understand on this journey. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting trapped by the 3D. We're going to keep being suckered by the 3D. So, I mean, we can still interact with it. We can still talk to people in it. I mean, we're always interacting with the 3D anyways. Like we can't avoid the 3D. It's part of this human experience, but it's knowing and understanding that whatever I'm imagining is what has to become expressed. It has to. So yeah. I hope that helps. You made a lawyer believe in magic, dear Missy. Much love from Germany. Awesome, Zena. Awesome. I love it. I love it. Monica's got a question. It's a little bit long, but it's a good one. It's a good one. I think this is important. Um, I'd like you to help me with my question. I want to be a corporate flight attendant. I'm 30 years old now, and I've been wanting this since I was 19. I came really close to it when I was 22, and that just reignited my desire or confirmed it to me. Now more than 10 years have passed since I pictured myself with this job position, and I apply and I apply, and I didn't stop applying because I simply cannot see myself quitting my dream, but it's getting really hard. I've applied for multiple companies all over the world, not just in Europe, but in the US, Africa, Asia, etc. I want this so much and I'm willing to relocate at my own expense. Last April, I applied for the fifth time to this company and I made it to the primary interview stage. Last week, I was interviewed by them, and yesterday I got the rejection email again. This is my third time being interviewed by them, and the fifth time being rejected. I've asked for feedback with no response. What the heck am I doing wrong? I know very well how I attracted the interview opportunities these three times. I just don't understand why I can't sustain positive responses. Please help. Absolutely. And this, first off, I know how frustrating it is when we're not seeing the 3D conform. Um, the first thing that I would do, and this kind of goes back into the last thing that I just answered when it comes to how we interact with the 3D or how we should be looking and, you know, looking at the 3D, and that is it's malleable. The 3D is always malleable. Like never, ever, ever take it as final. The 3D is clay. It's clay. You can mold it, you can shape it, you can change it. It's a shapeshifter. It's always a shapeshifter. Um, and that's really important to always be like firmly in your mind, knowing that. Um, why this keeps happening? The first thing I would ask is, are you revising? Are you revising? Because whenever we have circumstances like this, it tends to invoke a reaction from us, and that reaction is what plants a seed in our mind subconsciously, right? So we want to uproot that seed if it is not an ideal one. We want to get rid of that seed if it is not an ideal one. So we want to revise it and continue to revise it and reject it. Um, because yes, especially if we're seeing things over and over and over again, there's still a belief, there's still an idea that this isn't possible for me, is why that's showing up. So I would I'd really do some observation and see where that's stemming from. Like this idea that this isn't possible. Perhaps you might have a belief that you're too old, that you've missed the window for this, that it can't happen because of XYZ, whatever, right? But making sure that there's nothing in the realm of that idea or that belief that's not, coming in to help sabotage it. And even if that is the case, that you do kind of see where that's stemming from, it's never too late to revise it and to change it, right? And we do this by not accepting the 3D as final. We do not accept it as final. And I know that's what you have been doing. I mean, clearly, you have been incredibly persistent here, but regardless, we have to remember to revise, to uproot, and to change the conception that we have of ourselves. If there is a belief that perhaps this isn't possible for us anymore, perhaps we've missed the window, anything like that's sort of what I'm seeing maybe at the root of this and might be responsible for this. So, I'm not sure what exactly your imaginal acts have been looking like, but I would continue to revise. I would continue to change this, and I would continue to, instill and really move into the state that This is already my reality. This is already my done deal. I'm traveling the world. I am a flight attendant. This is my day to day. I stay at these hotels. I go all over the continent, all over the world. I just continue to embody that state all throughout the day and keep going back there. Keep going back there. Hi, Missy. My SP is well known. I'm struggling to believe that it is possible. He doesn't know me, and I can't see how it can happen. He also has a lot of options. Do I just give up or persist? That's a good question. I wouldn't just give up because all of the things that were listed there are all limiting beliefs. Um, they sound reasonable. They sound logical to us, right? They don't know who I am. They're well known. They don't even know I exist. They've got so many options. Why would they pick me? Sounds logical, but in your reality, in your state of consciousness, like through your eyes, you decide what happens. You decide what is real and what is not. So in that sense, I wouldn't give up just by those very limiting beliefs, those very narrow constructs. I would not give up for those reasons at all. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he doesn't know you. It doesn't matter if he couldn't pick you out of a lineup. It doesn't matter if he's got all the options. None of that matters. None of that matters. But I mean, if we believe that it matters, then that's what we're going to be up against. But objectively speaking, none of that matters. So, drop all of the limitations that we're creating, all of the all of the reasons why we can't have it. Drop all of that and continue to go to the end. That's all we're doing. That's literally all we're doing. We're just imagining what it's like as the person that has this desire, that is living this desired outcome. That's literally all we're doing. And we're all capable of that. So I would continue to go there. I'd continue to go there. Should I revise conversations with a friend who was harsh with me for believing in law of assumption and saying I'm blocking my blessings by manifesting an SB? What? Blocking your blessings? Yeah, I'd revise it. Yeah. If it were me, I would. That's so weird. Blocking your blessings. Yeah, definitely revise that. Hi, Missy. I'm trying to manifest so much at once for myself and for all my loved ones. Any advice on how to not get overwhelmed or find a good daily practice for this? Thank you. Absolutely, Marlene. Um, so for multiple desires, if there's multiple things that you're trying to manifest, my go-to and probably my favorite technique out of all of them is the lullaby method, or isn't it wonderful? And I made a video talking about that. You can always check on the YouTube search bar, Missy Renee lullaby method. But basically, this is capturing the feeling, the general feeling of satisfaction, the general feeling of gratitude. This is the general feeling of what it would be like if you now had all of the things that you desired. If your life was as perfect as it could be, what would that feel like? Right? Like we're taking all of these areas and sort of like encapsulating it into one feeling and let yourself sort of marinate in that feeling before bed. It's a powerful one. And that way too, because it is very general, you'll notice an effect in every area of your life. You will see different areas of your life playing out in that general state. That general state of satisfaction is going to lead to satisfaction in love, satisfaction in money and wealth, satisfaction in business, personal development, all of that. So that's my go-to. Instead of feeling like we need to create a dozen different scenes for a dozen different things. You can do that if you want to, but Um, that might feel very overwhelming. So yeah. You might have already answered this in previous videos, so I apologize if this is redundant. But how did or do you feel when you know a manifestation is about to come? Good question. Good question. And don't apologize. Don't apologize. All good. All questions are welcome here. Um, and it's a good one. How do you feel, or what can you come to expect when you know a manifestation is about to come? It's a feeling. It's an internal feeling. You will start to feel very, very confident, or you'll notice the absence of longing. You will no longer be in a state of longing for them, missing them, or whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. You will feel very, very neutral or even confident, right? So it's how you are thinking and feeling in your day to day. And if you are living in the state of the wish fulfilled enough, you're going to notice the thoughts, the feelings, the reactions that you have are going to be wildly different than the thoughts and feelings and reactions from that state of lack, right? You're not going to be checking the 3D all the time if you are, in fact, living in the end. There's not going to be a need to do that. You're not going to feel any urge to do that because you've already let yourself experience that within. There's that sense of satisfaction that you have, and things like that. So you'll know it's about to show up based on how you feel. It's all a feeling. Like before my um, about a week or so, a couple weeks before my husband finally did come back, after that whole drama that was my SP story. When I was in that state of the wish fulfilled, it was I was so not worried about it. I was, whenever I would think about him, it was always in a very loving, peaceful sense. But a lot of the time, I just went about living my life because it felt done to me. I didn't worry about it anymore. I wasn't fixated on the absence of him anymore. So yeah, you'll notice that it's close by how you feel on the inside. Happy Saturday. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Mohammed. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'm revised. I'm revising, but the old version and voice in my head make me feel like nothing is changing. Yeah, that may be depending on what we're revising, depending on what it might be that we're trying to change, trying to revise. We may need to go back and revise it a number of times. If we're still noticing that old story coming up, if we're still attached to that old outcome that happened, that's indication to us that we do want to go and revise again. It may take a couple times to really start to detach from that old state. I feel like my manifestation is done, but sometimes I feel like I need to keep repeating my affirmation. Yeah, you don't. You don't. It once you feel like it's done, you can drop it. You can drop it. You do not have to continue to you don't have to continue to imagine or affirm, right? At that point, it's almost redundant, or it is redundant. Uh, and you want to ask yourself, why are you still affirming if you feel like it's done? Because that might be stemming from a place of fear that it won't happen if you don't keep working at it, which is just, yeah, that's not true. If you feel like it's done, it is done. It is absolutely done. You can drop it. When you manifested your SP during the day, did you think he was already with you, or did you consider that he wasn't but was certain that he was coming back? Good question. So when I manifested my person back, did I think he was already with me, or knew that he wasn't but certain that he was coming back? It was the latter. It was the latter. I wasn't literally trying to, like, convince myself that the 3D was different than what it was. I wasn't trying to, you know, make myself feel delusional and pretend like he was there in the 3D with me. Because clearly my eyeballs could see that that was not true. It was annoying that it doesn't matter because he's coming back. Like, the 3D has to conform. The 3D has to conform to what we imagine. So yeah, it was the latter. Oop, oop, just clicking stuff. How do you deal with an SP that's not fully conformed? So there's movement and he's texting, but slow replies, not fully coming around. I'm staying true to it, but it's hard experiencing this 3D version. Yeah, um, it certainly can be. How do we deal with that? We cannot accept the 3D outcomes and circumstances if they are not ideal. Um, but first we want to see, okay, what is this feedback telling me? Because everything that shows up in the 3D is feedback. It's all feedback. And it's telling us where we are dwelling in consciousness, or where are we dominantly dwelling in consciousness more often than not. So if SP is showing up, but they are not showing up in the way that we want it to, it's likely there's still some sort of attachment to that old story. There's still something within us that identifies and believes that they are this way, right? We're still resonating with the old version of them, and that's what we want to change. That's what we want to change. So I would begin imagining, continue to imagine, only the very best version of him, only showing up in the way that you want him to show up. And I would be revising anything that comes up that is not that. I would be revising. And I know it can be challenging, which is why, if it's easier for you to do so, maybe, like, what I had to do, and I'm really glad that I did this, because when my person was showing up not conformed or not as how I wanted things to be, it was incredibly triggering for me, and that would kind of throw me out of whack for sometimes days. Um, so I got to the point where I basically said, I need to, I need to not bring into the 3D, like, or keep bringing into the 3D things that are going to move me like that. So I basically said, hey, dude, like, I need some time for myself right now. I can't keep doing this. And like I said, I know it's hard because we want to see something in the 3D, but if it's continuing to put you in a tailspin, I wouldn't subject yourself to that. No, I hope that makes sense. I would revise those encounters, and really, if we are still being moved by the 3D to that effect and to that degree, it may not be the best idea to continue to let that happen, right? You are so welcome. Can you do more videos on revision success stories? Oh, I almost knocked my mic over. Yes, I can do more on revision success stories. Absolutely. And just more success stories in general, because I know that those are very helpful for you guys. Does it mean that I haven't bought the pearl if I 100% believe in the law, but I struggle with believing in myself? For some things, due to triggers, fall into the old story, having reactions to 3D advice. So does it mean you haven't bought the pearl if you do believe in the law, but struggle to believe in yourself because of triggers and old story and all that? I mean, I to me, buying the pearl is going all in with the law, with the understanding, like going all in with the belief that what we imagine, what we believe and assume is true is what ultimately becomes our 3D experience. That's buying the pearl and truly accepting that. It may not be that you are living the perfect version of you or living that perfect state of consciousness just yet because of old beliefs, assumptions, etc. But because it is getting used to that new state, right? That's part of it too. The reason that we continue to imagine ourselves as the person we want to be is to become more familiar with what that is like, right? Like our imagination is a way to experience something that we may not be able to experience in the 3D, right? Like right now, if I wanted to go to Tokyo, I mean, like right now in this moment, I can't just go there in this moment in the 3D, but I can go there in imagination, right? So it's an ability to go somewhere that we may not be able to visit in the 3D. And that's how we begin to embody and become familiar with and start to attach to this new conception, this new state, right? But at first, it may be that we need to continue to go back to that, right? Until we're acclimated to that new state of consciousness, that's where the persistence part comes in. That's where it's continuing to go there, regardless of what the 3D looks like. So long as you're doing that, you've bought the pearl. You've bought the pearl. Because yeah, you may not believe in this moment that you are the person that you desire to be. You may not believe that it's not possible from this state you're in now. But with faith and trust in the law, you know that you can get there. You know that that can become your physical experience. So I hope that makes sense. But basically, so long as you go all in and trust that what you imagine creates reality, that what you assume creates reality, and you have bought that completely, that's buying the pearl. That's buying the pearl. It's got to even out and adapt to the new version. Yes, yes, it must. It must. It must. You cannot continue to embody a state and not see the reflection in the 3D. That is not possible. It's not possible. If you go there in imagination, it will become your 3D. Period. Period. A parade of old relationships are trying to connect. Did this happen to you? Yeah. Parade of old relationships are trying to connect. Did this happen to you? Oh yeah. Yeah, that was the birds before land thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I had many an ex reach out in that time. I mean, which was it was cool. It was nice, but yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Birds before land is not a bad thing. Did you have any blocks while manifesting your SP? Yes, I had every block while manifesting my SP. Every single block you can think of. Yeah. It was a mighty lesson of trial and error. Oh dear God. Hello, I love your channel. Thank you so much for everything. Oh, thank you, Michaela. Thank you. I'm glad. Sorry to keep asking about revision. No need to apologize, Nico. Can I add that I am able to express my feelings with SP, and I feel I am safe and secure with SP? I have addressed that in affirmations. Will that play out in 3D? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you mean in revision, can you imagine and add that you are able to express your feelings and that you're safe? Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, in fact, I would. I would. That's important. That's important. Mhm. Thank you for the super chat, SDS. When you speak of what we are aware of will continue to manifest, how do you get past that when it comes to physical symptoms and health? How do you become aware of perfect health? Thank you. Absolutely, Mimi. And naturally it might feel a little bit when it comes to physical health, when it comes to physical tangible things in the 3D, um, it may feel more challenging because like we can see it, we can experience it in all moments throughout all moments of the day. So naturally, trying to suspend that disbelief can feel a bit more challenging to do so. That was certainly the case for me when I manifested better health, because especially when I was having a flare up and all I could think about was how much pain I was in. Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, and in those moments, I was not able to, like, I literally was not even able to try to live in the end. Like, when I was in pain, everything just pointing to I'm in pain. Um, that's all, I just did the best that I was able to do in any given moment. In those moments where I was hurting really bad and I was experiencing a flare up, I would just, try to keep my mind on something such as like I'm safe, I am safe, I am healthy, I am safe, and I would just try to like use that more than anything, just distraction as much as possible. Um, and then in the moments when I was feeling better, when I noticed when that pain alleviated, when it started to come down, and I was feeling better, that's that's when I would go on the bandwagon to imagine living in that healthy state, right? So when I was feeling better, when I was feeling more neutral, that's the moments that I would take advantage of. And those moments are when I would go all in imagination, right? So again, I know it can be challenging when it feels like something that we're constantly dealing with at any given moment. But it's also important to remember that our imagination truly is like a muscle. And I love to use that analogy because it's so true. The more we begin to use our imagination, the stronger this muscle is going to get. And the more we exercise, the stronger it's going to get. Right. So you're going to continue to strengthen this muscle till you get to a point where you can move yourself out of the physical 3D-ness, right? Like that you're aware of right now, and instead focus and become aware of what you're experiencing in imagination, right? So instead of being here in this 3D world, you're going to feel like you're in a new place entirely. Like, that is what is going to happen. Like, if we continue to imagine and we continue to exercise this muscle, we will get there. Has to. It absolutely has to. So as we continue to strengthen this muscle, so to speak, we're going to become more and more increasingly aware of health, of us in better health. We're going to be seeing ourselves more, doing the things that we'd be doing as healthy, right? Like being, mobile, active, seeing ourselves doing things that we normally couldn't do due to our ailments, due to our illness or pain, things like that. They're going to become more fleshed out. They're going to feel more real to you. It's going to be easier to identify with that. Maybe not initially, but if we continue to exercise this muscle, we will get there. 100%. Do I mess up my manifestations if I'm reading tarot or consulting psychics? Mm, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Uh, and I get feeling that urge or that desire to get answers. I mean that I understand how strongly that urge comes on and how much sometimes we really need to find answers. Um, but it doesn't work like that. Nobody outside of you has the ability to tell you what's going to happen. That's not a thing. Um, and in fact, if we call up psychics or get tarot readings and we are perhaps expressing an undesirable state of consciousness and therefore we receive a bad reading, it's gonna just throw gasoline on the fire, right? So I personally wouldn't. I personally would not. I know it's become sort of trendy lately to use tarot cards to find out what state we're occupying. Um, but the easier and way more accurate way of doing that is self observation. Just being mindful and paying attention to the dominant thoughts, feelings, and reactions that we're having. That's going to tell you everything you need to know because the 3D and everything in it is all feedback. It's just feedback, right? Nothing more, nothing less. So yeah, there's nothing outside of you that's going to give you answers. None. Nada. Lucy, you were always asking us who we would be if we had our desire. Could you give an example of what we would think, hear, etc., if we are who we'd be with that SP and loving relationship? Just want to clarify. So, could I give an example of who you would be if you had your desire? I mean, I can give you an example of who I would be, right? For somebody else, it may be very different. So if I'm imagining the version of me that is in a living, committed relationship with my person, what are some of the things that I'd be thinking? I'd probably be thinking, I'd be looking forward to something that we're going to get into over the weekend. Perhaps I'm excited about an upcoming trip or, what a kind of project we might be working on, right? I would hear them talking about that with me. Perhaps we're talking about our day together and the day that we've had. It could be that, we're basically like, who is that version of you, right? What are some things that you would be feeling, thinking, hearing? So I imagine if you're in a loving, committed, long-term relationship, that typically implies that you know you're loved, right? You know that this person loves you. You know that you are loving, you are loved. You know that this person adores you, right? You feel safe knowing that. You feel trust for your partner. You feel compatible. You feel like the two of you are perfect together, right? So is that where you are now, right? So you're sort of using that as a compare and contrast. So just it's and again, I can't like give you definitive what it would be for you because your self-concept is different from my self-concept. But what I can say is that based on the beliefs and assumptions of the version of you that is in this desired state. What would that look like? What would they be talking about? Well, like, how would they be speaking how would they be thinking when they thought about their person? It certainly wouldn't be like, oh God, are they with somebody else? Am I losing them? Are they going to go away from me? Like, those would not be the thoughts of the person that has your desire, right? It would be, I'm excited for what we're going to get into this weekend. I hope you remembered to finish the laundry. I hope my clothes aren't sitting there getting all mildewy. Like, I love the fact that he surprised me this morning with flowers. I love that person. They're awesome. Right? You see the difference? Yeah. So we're continuing to get familiar with that version of us. The version of us that already has the thing that we want, the person that we want. You're welcome, Nico. I used to manifest easily and have manifested some amazing things. Awesome. Just wondering why SP is taking so long. LOL. That being said, I meditated and it helped a lot. I feel like I made major progress in alignment. I had the same situation. Why SP is taking so long? Well, because there is awareness of the 3D lacking what you want. We want to get out of the habit and the mindset that we're doing this to change the 3D. Because if we're coming at this from a place of trying to change the 3D, we're going to continue to look to the 3D for confirmation. We're going to continue to look to the 3D for validation. And we're going to continue to reinforce that we don't have it. We're going to continue to become aware and bring into awareness that we don't have it. So we want to throw away the idea of changing the 3D. This is not about trying to change the 3D. This is about the internal change. This is about changing who you are from within. This is about being the person that you desire to be in consciousness, in here, not out there. It has nothing to do, like, get rid of the out here, get rid of it. I'm telling you, like, the more that you continue to try to reinforce this idea of changing the 3D, you're going to continue to look for it, but it's only reinforcing that you don't have it. I made a video. This is the next video that I have coming out talking about this. Yeah, because that's why, like, where is it? Well, that implies that you are looking for it. You cannot look for something that you have. You can't do that. That was my biggest mix up too. That was my big oops. I know we aren't supposed to look for signs, but I don't know what to make. Yeah, no, we don't want to look for signs. I know we aren't supposed to look for signs, but I don't know what to make of getting a definite crazy sign hours after affirming in SATs. I mean, absolutely, you're gonna see if you have impressed something, if there has been a subconscious impression, you will see the expression of it, right? But what we don't want to do is think that, oh, I see a sign that's going to keep leading me to, like, that's going to be a continuation, right? Just because we see a sign of something in and of itself does not mean that it's going to continue to unfold if we don't continue to live in the end, right? Everything is outpictured. It's and everything has the meaning we give to it. So continue to live in the end, continue to, dwell and maintain that state of it's already done. I would absolutely do that. But yeah, we don't want to get caught up in looking out there. Yeah, I'm also coming out with a video about what is happening when we manifest our person back, how to maintain that. How to maintain that, right? Like how to continue to live in that state of the wish fulfilled. Something that is very common that a lot of us do is like as soon as we get our manifestation, we then revert right back to the 3D and we go right back to the 3D and all of the old crap that comes with it. We don't want to do this. We don't want. I made that mistake. That was my personal bad too. Um, yeah, this is something that we're always doing. We always want to be imagining the very best. We want to be, in our imagination, we want to be continuing to see ourselves and see the scenarios as we want them to be. Like always. This doesn't just stop when you get your person back. Mhm. I do gotta get going in a second, you guys. Got one more. Um, what do you think about two SPs manifesting each other? My SP lives in Romania and she manifested me back after 14 months, so I was her SP. I recently flew out from California to see her. Think about two people manifesting each other. That's I think that's so sweet. That is so sweet. So she was manifesting you and you were manifesting her? Well, yeah, there's overlap there, so so you were both occupying the same state at the same time. That's so sweet. I love that. All right. One more question. How do you get clarity on what you want? I go back and forth constantly between SP or finding a new SP. I worry that I may be limiting myself if I try to get SP back. So how do you get clarity on what you want? Well, I would really do some internal reflection. So the fear is that you're limiting yourself if you try to get SP back. I guess in the sense of you feel like you're not letting yourself go to a new place to explore, like you're holding yourself back in the sense of you could be meeting somebody else in this time. I take it. Um, and I mean, understandable that's that sounds reasonable, but if it's coming from a state of fear, we don't want to we don't want to latch to it. We don't want to attach to something that is fear based. Um, that's something that we need to. I would really do some internal reflection first. If it feels like you're constantly going back and forth between what you should do, um, see what it is that is, I guess all of the reasons why you want SP and why you don't. And, all the reasons that are coming from a place of I want a new or I'm sorry, try to see all of the reasons why you want to manifest your old SP and why you want to move on to a new SP and see what more is coming from a place of fear and limitation. Um, is it because your old SP was not ideal? Was it falling out and bad things that happened? Is it the version of him is not what you see yourself being with? Because all of those aspects can change. All of those aspects can change. Is it fear that you're wasting time and you could be out dating and meeting new people in this time? Because again, that's stemming from a place of fear and doubt, right? And if it feels like you truly can't decide, even with inner exploration and really internalizing what you are feeling and why, then I would keep it general. If you can't, if you're stuck between one SP or a new SP, like old SP or finding somebody new, I would keep it general. I would just, move into a general state of love, a general state of feeling loved, feeling that adoration, feeling chosen, feeling like I'm safe and I trust and this compatibility. It doesn't have to have a specific person attached to it. It could very much be a general state, right? And you're going to be moved in one form or another. You'll the idea or the answer of what to do will come to you in that case. I hope that makes sense. But I would first try to get clear on where all these fears and doubts are stemming from. What are these limitations? What are they attached to? Perhaps they're attached to old fears and doubts that you've inquired since you were younger. Um, and that's all. And then if you still can't get clear, if it still doesn't come to you as to what you should decide, I would go with a more general state because that way you will be moved one way or another. You will at least get yourself out of being stuck, if that makes sense. And I hope that makes sense. I do hope that makes sense. And on that note, you guys, unfortunately, I do got to get going. Got to finish the day out. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for joining me. I hope that was insightful. These questions were awesome. You guys are awesome. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And until next time, all, much love to all of you and take care. Bye. Mwah.